You just
Okay, so as I said, let's focus on the integration a little bit today.
okay.
So, actually, let's open, and also I will walk you through the the GitHub document that I was putting together. So that way it will be easy if at all you want to refer it later.
Sure, yeah.
So this is the main GitHub repository that when we were using. And every day as I was completing the class, I was adding the commits there. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I was writing some README document so that it will be useful, for myself also for later.
Yeah.
The way I was putting together, so this is the agenda and all the training videos Sampath is uploading. So everything is in here. And the training source code potentially it's the same repository. It will take you here. Kind of redundant one. So, and then the developer tools that we in the first class that we talked about, all that stuff, and the CLI and the JDK setup, all those things. If at all we want to do it again, so for a new developer, whoever comes, potentially they can start following these one by one, and some important resources that I used to follow, and potentially good for anybody. And day one, these are various things that we I walk you through. And then day two is where we talked about a lot of data types and those stuff. Usually directly to go to those links and all. So that's how I put together. That will take you for the documentation. And day three, we started with Apex triggers and the triggers and tags and those things. And I tried to put in all the homework that I was asking you guys to do right there after the thing. And then day four, we kind of did little deep dive into triggers, especially focus on after triggers and unit tests also there. And again, we talked about the Salesforce Inspector tool little bit. I briefly talked about it. Mostly I talked pretty much all the topics very high level. If you want more details, obviously those links will definitely help. And the testing and so the fifth day, so potentially we definitely put a lot of emphasis on the asynchronous Apex, all the future methods, batch, Apex scheduler, queuable, all that stuff. And again, another homework thing. So, that's how I put together these details. And now if we go back here, the integration potentially, whenever we say integration, we have two types of integrations. One is inbound integration, the other one is obviously outbound integration. In order for us to do any integration, obviously if the other party is a secured thing, so we need to get some authorization tokens, all the access tokens, those stuff. Salesforce, especially if anybody exposes a web service, we should be able to first authenticate their system, and then we should be able to, then only they will let us access their protected resources.
Yeah.
So that's the outbound. For outbound, potentially we are calling external parties websites, and we have multiple ways we can call. So one is we can call them as call out, and when we have button, basically get some information from external system, or when we click on button, so go create order or something. So at that time we typically call outs. Then there is a remote site setting. In order for us to access external system, Salesforce checks inside Salesforce whether are we allowed to call external system. I mean, external system definitely checks whether we have proper authorization, but Salesforce also makes sure we don't go hit external systems without our admins and the developers permission. So that's where Salesforce, inside Salesforce, we need to configure something called a remote site setting or named credential. So one or the other. So say a named credential is more latest one from Salesforce. If we do named credential, we don't need to touch a remote site setting. So those are minimum things. Let's say if we want to call some weather.com or maybe some billing details, some bank API. If we want to call some bank API, first thing that we have to do in Salesforce, whatever the API, let's say Bank of America API Bank of America, if we want to call that one, first we need to create something called named credential inside Salesforce. Then we should be able to call Salesforce will allow. But when Salesforce is calling, external system will also check, okay, hey, whether this company, whoever is hitting, whether this person has access to Salesforce. I mean, access to their API. So at that time, first we have to get the access token, or maybe however they did. Hopefully, you are aware of all the OAuth concepts. So potentially one way or other, we need to authenticate, and then they will let us access their bank APIs. That's how it works. And also Salesforce, let's say fire and forget scenario. If let's say there is something happened in Salesforce, and if we want to notify external system, and at that time what we have to say, okay, hey, so there are multiple ways to notify external system from Salesforce. One is platform event. So this one we can send the payload however we want. Okay, hey, this is the opportunity is created, opportunity is one, and this is the payload. Basically, this is the account, this is contact on this one, and this is the amount of opportunity. Based on that, external system can create orders in their system. And there is another one in Salesforce, more configurable stuff. I mean, here developer has to write some code. Here it is more of admin thing, so they can simply enable, and immediately changes will go to external system. I mean, go to Salesforce event bus, and external system can subscribe to the event bus, and they can get that information. And there is another easy way to do this thing called push topic. I mean, initially push topic is basically a query based one. We can write something like, okay, some SQL statement, select name ID from opportunity where stage equal to 1. So at that time, only when the stage equal to 1, whenever we create that kind of opportunity or update opportunity, immediately this push topic will be invoked, and it will send an information to event bus, and event bus, whoever is subscribed to that event bus, they can see all those things. I mean, very high level I'm talking, but there is, I mean, all these links will take you to the detailed implementation of these things. Latest and greatest, but everything has its own limits from Salesforce point of view. And Salesforce will try to make some business there. So basically, you can only raise this many platform events. You can only subscribe to this many platform events. That kind of limits are there. That's why whenever we go for these things, I mean, solution architects and those guys, they have to see what is the volume that company can go through. So let's say if you want to use either change data capture or platform event, you have to check, okay, hey, how many events on a typical day that business can generate. If it is maybe let's say 1,000,000, so then we have to check, okay, is 1,000,000 events as per our company license, is it allowed? If not, do we have to go by it, or maybe do you have to find some other alternate approach? Those are the things the solution architect has to, I mean, responsible for. And that's how all these events, I mean,
By
latest,
default,
I mean, for again, it is all depending on the license
license?
level. So if it is enterprise or unlimited license, I believe 250,000 per hour events you can raise. but I mean, that is equivalent to 6 million events per day. But even though they allow you to publish that many events, but external systems point of view, they only allow you to subscribe 50,000 events per day. I mean, very crazy limit there.
Uh-huh.
6 million versus 50,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where Salesforce will say, okay, hey, this is not good enough for me. If company says, yeah, we have different subscription levels. You can buy some of those, they call some package or something, and then you can scale it basically high.
Okay.
Uh, and then there is this outbound message. I mean, these are all REST-based things. And this is the only one that is a SOAP-based one. So basically in Salesforce, we can configure this thing. Again, this one is more a declarative one, and simply you can configure. And this is the one, this guy is the more programmatic approach. And even this one is lightweight programmatic. And this guy, change data capture and outbound messages are more admin tools, but very powerful.
Okay.
And I mean, we talked about outbound, so inbound. So let's say someone wants to create some data into Salesforce. So that's when Salesforce, the way, I mean, first, again, like other system, so Salesforce also expects when somebody is hitting our org or our system, we want them to be authenticated first. So for that, basically there is something called connected app. We can create connected app, and then once you create connected app, it will generate the client ID, client secret, those things. And once we have those, I mean, we only give them to people that we trust. So that's, I mean, there is a lot of authentication ways, different ways of authenticating, like JWT and those things. And once we authorize them, I mean, once they authorize themselves, then only we will let them access our resources.
Okay.
I mean, huge topic.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, that is a high level. So now let's look at some service, how we make those things. Basically, if you see, I mean, I wanted to simulate something like Bitcoin price. Basically, the Bitcoin, as you may know, potentially every company, so they expose some APIs, but Bitcoin, so they just to get the price, I mean, what is US currency, what is, I mean, what is the Bitcoin currency in US dollars today, or what is US currency in other system, I mean, other currency. Those are public APIs. You don't need to authenticate yourself. But the moment you access their services, they potentially freely they give that information, like how we go to google.com, I mean, search for anything, so without authenticating, so they are giving us that information. Same thing with Coindesk, they give you that. I mean, with that, I just want to show you, I mean, are you familiar with Postman?
No, Shrikant.
Yeah, this is a tool. I mean, definitely very, very powerful tool. I mean, for any integration scenarios. I mean, in my job, potentially I pretty much use it whenever I have to use some integration scenarios, just test it. I mean, if other party gives some service, or we have to give some service, potentially I test something, how to create some data within Salesforce. Basically, sometimes we have to tell the other system developer how they have to invoke APIs, how they should be passing the parameters, those stuff. So for that, I will potentially, I mean, this is a very easy tool for me to create a collection and give them a kind of sample payload. That's how they can use it. I mean, they can proceed from their side of development. Same thing, if your external system gives us, okay, hey, this is the API, just execute it, or maybe this is the API you should be using. Potentially, I ask them, okay, hey, give me some Postman collection, so that I try it myself. Once we try, potentially putting it into a code shouldn't be that bad. So now if you see here, I mean, this is a API from Coindesk.
Okay, Coindesk.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so they gave us some open API. I mean, you don't see, I mean, here I'm not using any authentication, but some services they force you to use authentication and all. And now, so if I use this guy, I mean, if you see here, I mean, I invoke this one, I believe either yesterday or day before yesterday, actually yesterday, June 5th. And the US currency for Bitcoin is 29,684. Now, if we invoke this guy again,
Get today's
this is
price.
going to get us the latest one. And now you see it is 30,000 some rate basically. Now, I mean, if we want to, I mean, let's say, I mean, this may be small use case, but no, similar thing like if external system says, okay, hey, there is this credit card API, whenever you want to charge us, or maybe you are a e-commerce company, and if you want to charge somebody, all we have to take is their credit card, and potentially at that time we might be using post method, and then we take their credit card details and just pass it to those guys, and immediately I mean the amount will be created to our and deducted to from their thing. All that happens behind this. What happens, how it happens, we don't need to really know, because that should be a black box for us. All we need to know is how to use the parameters. So that's all.
Yeah.
That's the API contract that other system has to give us. And in this case, potentially they are giving us just the endpoint to get the information. Now, once we get this thing, we know the response is going to be like that, and how to parse that response. That information, once we get that JSON, we will know. So basically, we see here, okay, hey, there is an object that is coming, and there is a key pair time. So basically, time is giving, okay, when that happened, all that stuff, and then some disclaimer, and then BPI,
BPI.
and under BPI again. So there is another
Yes.
JSON, and in the JSON again there is a key value pair for USD, and they are saying the rate is somewhere here. So that's all we need to know. Once we know where the price would come, all that stuff from the contract, we will be able to do our own the parsing and all.
Yeah.
So now if we go back here, I mean, let me open this endpoint one more time. And I talked, okay, let's go here.
Condesk.
Yeah, the kind, I mean, the main thing is I mentioned here
API,
I mean, Salesforce doesn't let us to call external system directly without our admin, or admin tells them, okay, hey, this is a safe one, you can call that one. So that's the remote
okay.
name credential. Now we are making an outbound call. So from here, there is a call out that we are trying to do. I mean, if you see here, there is a HTTP request that we are saying, and we are setting an endpoint, and we are telling that it is a get method. And so basically, this is where we are sending a request to this external system for API. Now, in order for us to make this call out, I mean, here the call out, I mean, if you see this guy, the V1 BPI current price, that's this guy. So basically, all these things. And
Good.
this is the one I kind of marked it, and I'm not even showing it here.
Yeah, because you're parsing it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one. Where did this guy go?
So, do you use Postman for any other things apart from checking the API?
Yeah, I do use it for a lot of different things. I mean, if you see here, this is, I mean, a lot of, whenever I mean, I was doing a lot of work with the Salesforce itself. Sometimes I have to access some Salesforce stuff and also some Microsoft Graph API. Basically, there were some requirements to send emails out, and Salesforce was not supporting a few things. So that's where I had to use little differently. I had to take, I mean, Salesforce has some limitations on, okay, we only say allow you to send 5,000 emails per day. but there are business requirements to send more than 5,000 emails. At that time, we want to rely on mostly sales, I mean the Outlook services, and to send more emails. So then Microsoft has something called Graph API, and using that one we can send emails. Basically, send emails through the company's exchange email system. That's one thing. And there are I mean for service now, so let's say if we want to create some change requests and those things automatically, we can use service now APIs. So those are the things. And also sometimes we have to call some we use some integration system USB. So if we want to make callouts to USB, so we use that guy. And sometimes if we want to get some information from Bitbucket, and Bitbucket is kind of counterpart, I mean not kind of, it is a counterpart for GitHub. For us, there were requirements to get some pull request details, commit details for those kind of things. I mean, first we have to test those APIs, how it works and all.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there will be a lot of requirements. I mean, even for AWS, if you want to integrate, you need to potentially know how to access those things. I mean, first I start with Postman.
And
Once I
then
get some feeling, then I can easily code that in the Salesforce. Yeah. So let's go back to this name credential. So this is the one. I mean, very simple thing, and but is very powerful one. So
we have to enable that.
yeah, so basically you see this is the one API
Okay.
dot client desk. This is, if we don't say this thing immediately, this guy, I mean Salesforce will even won't allow you to make that
Access it.
call
Okay.
out. This call out will fail here. So right here, this one failed. And since we, I mean, the way there is a little bit of syntax, you have to say call out and then the API name of the endpoint that we call, basically this guy, our name. So you need to pass that guy. So you don't need to pass this URL. So the URL automatically will be replaced here. And now this guy, basically this URL, and then this guy is nothing but our Postman URL. So once we have that thing, now it's a matter of executing this whole code. And the way I was deserializing this guy, so basically we get this response, that's this response. We get all this response.
Yeah.
Once we get this response, now we know we need to go to BPI USD, and then the rate is right here. So that's the one I'm trying to navigate. So I got this BPI and then I got this USD, and then finally I'm trying to get this the currency rate. And that's the one. If we execute this guy, potentially that should execute all that stuff, and should write Bitcoin price right now. It is 29,861. So now, I mean, it was 30,000 some time ago. Yeah. So potentially, I mean, this is a fluctuating thing. So
Yeah.
at that moment, whatever it was, it will, the API will return.
So over here, you're specifically saying USD. That is why you got USD rate.
Yeah.
Right?
So here,
Currencies dot get.
yeah, this guy currency BPI. We navigate to BPI here.
Yeah.
That's the currency, total currencies, all of them. And then if I go the next one, I'm going after this USD. So the key value pair, I'm going for this guy, and it is going to return me all this value. I mean, this whole object. Once I have that object again is a JSON. So I'm going after this particular key. So that's what I'm doing here. Yeah, I mean, basically just get the JSON, and because from there onwards everything is key value pair, I'm just navigating through the key value pairs.
Deserialization type, is it? Untyped.
Yeah, and these are Salesforce, I mean, the out of the box utilities. JSON is a class, and that one has a lot of methods, and we are just using this.
So JSON is a we don't have to inherit or anything.
Like yeah, we don't have to do. I mean, Salesforce gives us a lot of documentation for JSON, and same with XML. JSON.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there will be number of methods on this one, and based on our need, I mean you can create a class and you can potentially you can parse it as per that class. So definitely there is a lot you can do. And here this is the apex type. You pass the string and you say apex type, and basically that one deserializes accordingly as per your. And I use this
Apex type is asynchronous.
apex type is you can give it a class name or something like that. Yeah, so decimal class. Yeah, so here they defined a class, and here they are giving a JSON, and basically here they are saying, okay, hey, I want you to deserialize as per this class, and since you passing make here, I mean the class parameters, and you are passing JSON make and year, and now you will get the make is SFDC and year, because that is the key, and the value is 2020, and
This
that's
is the test case scenario.
I mean it's not test case. Basically they are using assertions like this one. So basically you can also do system.debug c.make, and that will print out SFDC for you, and system.debug c.year, that will return 2020 for you. I mean, the way they write documentation, whatever they are expecting, the output, instead of you executing the this code and see what is the value. So this is how they may try to make it easy, basically to understand what is the output.
Yeah, got it. Instead of system debug. Okay.
So that's that guy, the callouts. I mean, I briefly touched the Postman. But Postman, I mean, Salesforce has done very good job with these collections. If you look for this Salesforce collection, I mean, there are a number of ways that Salesforce, you can access Salesforce. I mean, the way you authenticate, I mean, there are multiple ways you can authenticate. Basically, you can use the username password flow. I mean, if you use username password, yeah, so you need the client ID, client secret, apart from username, password, and you need to pass that information. And just for you to understand how Postman works, let's say you authenticate one org, and if you want to move on to different org, like in here we are changing the different orgs. So same thing in Postman. So there are this environment, you can change it to different instance. Potentially, if you see here, I mean, the moment I put URL here, basically it is giving environment. Maybe let me pick a right one. Here, yeah, here if you see endpoint, it is giving one endpoint, basically some arg endpoint. And the moment I switch it to something else, immediately this URL and those things will be recalculated, and it is going to show a different endpoint. So, I mean, we are using the same service, and just by changing some environment here, it is going to take environments from this org. Basically, you can have a lot of Salesforce org, I mean, some Bitbucket related one, and maybe some other different things. Microsoft, the graph one I was talking about. Like that, I mean, you can call different environment. You can write different environments based on your collection. You can pick that environment and you can execute it. I mean, for everything, I mean, there is authentication. So for this guy, so if at all we want to get authentication, so let's say if we get, let's go to, yeah, let me walk you through this new guy. So let's say for our org, I didn't do this. Basically, this dev training. This is a training environment we created. And for this one, if you want to authenticate from Salesforce, I mean the Postman. So the way we do this, let me pick one and duplicate that guy, and I will walk you through that. Let me take production. Okay. So now let's take this guy and we can potentially save as. So now let's say this guy we will call the dev training R. Now the username, so we need to give our username. So here whatever the username for this arc, let's go back to our instance here. Let me get my username. I forgot my password. Let's see if I can. So that's the username and the endpoint. We may have to update it once we get that one. So let's say that. Now, if we switch to our dev training one, right here, we got that guy. Let's close this other ones. So now we got that dev thing and also the endpoint URL, I believe. So URL. So the URL we also need to pass the URL. Let's go back to our dev environment. So the first thing, so this guy is our, and since we are going to be our production system, we need to use the login.salesforce.com, and that's my username. Now, if we have that guy, so now we are trying to authenticate this arc. So that's where this we go to this top one, and here when we say get a new access token, and it is going to go to that guy. And as you see here, it is already, since I already logged in the browser, it is saying, okay, hey, there is this user that is there on the browser, you
Like to
already
access.
authenticated. So do you want me to allow? So then we'll say yes, hello. And now it is going to give that what thing is all happening, and it is going to give us that access token. So now we got that access token. I mean, if you want, we can change this access token name. I mean, which is irrelevant. So let's say we say that dev training access token. This is just for run if at all we want to pick it later. So now I say use token, and now that one is available. Now potentially, if I want to request some resources, let's say some, let's do something here. Subject rows, yeah, get the subject rows. Let's see if we have any. Yeah, potentially the endpoint. We need to update the endpoint also. That endpoint potentially we can get it from Salesforce. See here. So this is the domain. Here, so this is where we need to replace this guy. This is all one-time thing. So now we know that is our endpoint and all. And I mean, there is initial value.
Can you
that it will take.
Can you once again show that, Shrikant, for the endpoint?
Yeah, basically in the my domain.
Oh, okay.
You get that guy and you will see that one.
Okay.
And now we have this guy. I mean, this is where we need to authenticate. I mean, every time we log out, or maybe when our refresh token is our access token is expired, we need to again go here, get new access token. That's when it goes to this endpoint with this username and potentially try to get that authenticated. And then whenever we need to go back to the service to get some object data, or maybe if we want to insert records into Salesforce, that's when we need this endpoint. And now let's see if we get that is the format. Salesforce. So this is the main one, Salesforce platform APIs. So underneath that, so potentially you can find this guy. Let's see account create. Query. Let's see what is this query. Yeah, so query, select all fields from, let's say here we'll say account. And now we know this endpoint is going to our domain and version. And so the authorization is getting from that guy. And now if we try to issue this guy, the circle field must have at least limit of 200.
Okay. Maybe their condition. Okay.
So now we got all these things. Potentially now without even going to Salesforce, we were able to retrieve some accounts. I mean, because we authenticated. I mean,
Right.
the way we give this the code snippet to external system. I mean, now let's say if external system is asking us, okay, hey, I want to retrieve some data from your system. How do I do that? When they ask you, so potentially, I mean, most of the time they look for the curl commands. I mean, that's the thing. And now if you see, okay, so we all we say is, okay, we'll give this thing, and we will say, okay, hey, this is our endpoint. So you need to authenticate. This is the authorization bearer. And for this guy, first they have to authenticate with Salesforce. We need to provide some authentication mechanism. Once they get this authorization token, now they can retrieve the data. I mean, it also when it generates that access token, all the object level settings, field level security that we do, all that stuff will be respected with this authorization token. If a user is trying to retrieve some order data, if we don't give access to that user, obviously because we are authenticating with a user to start with, and if this user doesn't have object request to retrieve the data or read the data, it won't even return. So basically that's where the platform powerfulness comes. And I mean, one first thing, there is a security. Second thing, there is object level security as per the user, and all those will be provided by Salesforce. Now, once they get this information, now they have all this billing information, account information. However they want to use it, they can use it. The other way, so I mean, they are retrieving, and let's say they want to create data into Salesforce. And now, so all we have to do is, I mean, same thing, the endpoints, and basically the endpoint may be a little different than the before one. Authorization same, so they have to get authentication and the access token and all. Now the thing is, because they are creating an account, now they have to know what are the required fields in Salesforce and what they should be passing. Custom field, so to which field they have to pass that thing, all that information they should be knowing. And this is the one I mean, again, we will go back here and we will say, okay, hey, this is how you have to hit our system. And from there, potentially they can easily build some integration into the Salesforce.
Is this a free tool?
Yeah, this one is a free tool, and Salesforce provide this thing. I mean, if you go here, if you look for Salesforce collection. I mean, this guy, Salesforce, this is a workspace. Under this thing, basically Pardot is part of Salesforce license, the marketing thing. And CDP also, their, I think one of the latest offering, and marketing cloud. Basically, these are all Salesforce one. The one I showed is one of this guy, basically this Salesforce platform APIs collection. So that's this guy.
Can you actually share the link?
Yeah, I
Sridhar,
put
where-
together all these things. So if you go here,
Okay.
I mean, if you
Oh,
see,
great. Okay.
yeah, so I'm going to share all these things. And once you go click on that one, I mean, first thing first, you have to install the Postman. I mean, there is a
Yeah.
browser tool also. I mean, but better than browser, the desktop tool has a little more power. And
Can I know where I can download this or general
yeah, I mean,
Google?
all these things potentially should be explained here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just look for Postman download, and
Okay.
it will download. And these are basically like in CLI, right? We added some extensions. So
Yeah.
just think of these guys as some CLI kind of thing. So I
Okay.
mean, the extensions are, I mean, some collections. So here, some tools we are adding to our local workspace. Here, some APIs basically.
Okay.
I mean, very powerful one. I mean, if you understand this guy, I mean, there is a nice video out there how to access these and all. I mean, you will be a lot more productive, and especially when you want to become some architect and those things, this will become very handy. And I mean, you don't have to explain a lot of stuff to developers. All you have to say, okay, hey, go take this collection. I mean, if you want to create data, just use some REST thing. And if you want to retrieve the data, use this guy. And there are powerful things also. Let's say if they want to download millions of records,
Yeah.
obviously they cannot use REST. So
Yes.
they have bulk v1 and bulk v2. Bulk v2 is kind of maybe 2-3 years back Salesforce released, and it is a little faster performance and easy to work with compared to v1. So definitely, I mean, there is a lot more, and all this synchronous queries, and there are a lot of things in Salesforce. And so even with the UI, so the way when we create page layouts, all that stuff, you can, I mean, even list views you can access. Let's say here, get list views for an object. And if you want to get, I mean, usually this one may not be a good example. All you have to do is list UI, and here if you say account, and it will say, okay, what are the oh, sorry. I was on wrong place. Basically, let me go back here. And yeah, so here under UI, and so if you go back here, so potentially if you just change the object name to account, and now potentially you will get the list views of that account. I mean, whatever the list views. So potentially there are multiple list views, all accounts, my accounts, and I mean, those things. And if you want a little more detail of that, potentially you can drill down to a little more used records, you get records. Yeah, so basically record get list view records for API anyway. Yeah, I mean, you just need to play with these things. And I mean, this is a very easy tool for developer to explore new features. I mean, not only new features, potentially, I mean, if you say, okay, hey, there is a list view on this account object, and here earlier one we executed a lot of list views, and now, so if you want to see one individual one, potentially you can use one of these, and you can directly see how the list view, what are the columns, what are the sharing settings that were done for that list view configuration. You can get all that stuff. And so if you want some page layout, you can get record layout metadata, and you can get those things also very simple way. So sometimes they give, yeah, what are the pick lists for any record type. So those things also they give you here. I mean, easy way to access. So
Okay.
So it is that guy, and that's yeah. We can go a lot more deeper with these connected apps and all. For me to understand these connected apps itself and what to go, it took me a week just to go through, understand all this stuff, especially to make it work for an enterprise level. So if someone wants to access your services, how you will let them access, how you make that integration efficient. So for that, you have to understand a lot more ways. Salesforce offers at least 10 different ways of OAuth 2.0 and what is good for that scenario. So based on that, you have to define, look into various aspects and design a better solution. So that's where we put in a lot of time and effort.
So, so in this situation, like for authenticate, when you said you have to go through, you just read the documentation of
Yeah,
Salesforce.
mostly, I have high level idea, and typically the way I do, I look at a lot of trailheads and also some YouTube videos, and definitely documentation. Salesforce definitely give very good documentation, especially for pretty much everything. If we sometimes we don't even understand this thing if you read first time. If you are a newbie, so you may not be able to understand these things very well. At that time, all those YouTube videos definitely helps. Some of them are done by very experts, and then you understand, okay, hey, how this flow works. Definitely these flows are very for first time. These will be little tricky to understand, and potentially when you if you see this diagram, you may not be able to understand this very well. And also even when you read this thing, maybe sometimes it might sync well, sometimes it's not. But when you go through some videos, definitely it helps you understand a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And the way it is, so basically there is a user that is accessing some Salesforce thing. So let's say I go to a UI and I put in login.salesforce.com, or maybe I take one URL, some company.my.salesforce.com slash maybe some account ID. When I hit that one, if I don't authorize into Salesforce, first it asks me, okay, hey, do you authenticate? First it goes for authentication. Once
Yeah.
it
So you have to do that.
basically, yeah, it will give you that issue token. This is the one that we got, the access token. Once we get the access token, using that access token, potentially you will, this is where the main Salesforce is there, but there is authorization server, so separate outside of Salesforce. This is not within, so it is outside. You authenticate. Once you get authenticate, you are getting the token. Using the token, you are making a request for resources or creating the resources into the system. And then that's how potentially, even though you are sitting here, the data you are able to access on this server. So that's how it happens, all that stuff. If it is a, there are a lot more scenarios on the fridge. Potentially, we are seeing a lot of information. Basically, when the carriage or something is running over on the fridge, it will basically give you a notification. Also, the AI comes into picture. They automatically send information to the server. And how free, let's say if you take some solar panels and all, every time, every day you are using the system, basically it is sending the information back to the server. And but you are also seeing it on your mobile, all that stuff. This is all happening behind the scenes. Authorizations, all that stuff plays very big role. How you are accessing, if it is a server to server based, how you are doing that integration. If it is a user based authentication, how you are doing. And if it is server based, basically you don't let, even though you can do password flows, you want to use certificates, how you do certificates, all that stuff. The JWT is more for certificate, especially for server to server scenarios. You will see all these things. And this is the one for fridge and also the device flow IoT. So this is the, I mean, this kind of authentication. Sometimes on a device you can't put in a lot of things, but you can say you go to on your browser or phone, you say activate, and then it will show you a token. The moment you put in token on your thing, once you authorize log in, then automatically that basically on your TV or maybe on your fridge, it will say, okay, hey, you authenticated now, you are able to use your account basically. Those are various flows. I mean, based on the system, you have to design different authentication. I mean, this is very huge concept, especially during interviews and all. These will be, I mean, they ask a lot of questions, especially for solution architect levels. So that is that thing. And yeah, I mean, I kind of covered named credentials, callouts. I mean, this is basically if you place this guy in a trigger, or I mean, either in a trigger or maybe on the hit of a button when you call that thing. I mean, yeah, we simply take this guy, and for the UI, if you want to show this currency information, once you click this guy, potentially you have to write some UI HTML related one, and before that, basically the JavaScript can be used to make a call to the server. That's how we design all these front end to back end connections. Yeah, I mean, typically we have to use these callouts. I mean, there are from browser you can directly call the services also, but if you want to pass it on to server and server has to integrate with the other server, and you typically do this kind of integration flows. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling maybe 100 feet high level, but typically that's how the integration is going to be done. I mean, key thing is Postman definitely. I mean, for me, I've been using it for 2 years. I mean, definitely that makes my job a lot more easy. And before I know Postman, basically, I mean, worth spending some time, maybe 2-3 days. You should be able to feel comfortable. And this is not Salesforce thing. You can potentially use it for anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy again, so this is a monster streaming events. I mean, this is in my recent job, potentially I'm using, I mean, there are a lot of requirements where we have to integrate with AWS. And we don't, even though we have an integration tool, we don't, our enterprise doesn't want us to use the middleware thing. They want us to use that PubSub model. I mean, basically, they want us to publish to Kafka and basically subscribe to Kafka. So basically, if there are account updates happening, so they push the events to Kafka, you subscribe it, you get that information. And when you are in Salesforce, when you update a contact or account, you just push it to the same topic and other parties will take it over. I mean, that's how basically a lot of point-to-point contacts, I mean, point-to-point integrations will be decommissioned, and everything is pub-sub kind of model, and you publish it, you subscribe it, you have basically done. That's how they say. And the thing is with these guys, let's say if your system is down or maybe other system is down, but there may be on an enterprise level, there may be Oracle, there may be SAP, there may be Salesforce, and there may be other 100 systems. If you have one topic where everybody is publishing and the other people are just receiving those things at that time, maybe let's say one system is down, potentially nobody cares. Basically, the systems will write the events, and when that system, whatever that was down for maintenance or maybe because of some problem, when it comes up, and these platform events, basically they have something called replay ID. And let's say one system is down yesterday, and the replay IDs are a sequence numbers. Basically, it will be like maybe 1 million, 1,500,000. I mean, like that. Basically, they write that sequence number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 kind of thing. Every time you change a record, it will write that replay ID. So and 1, and next time when you change another record, it will basically publish 2, and like that. Let's say we are at 1,000, and the system, one system is down, And when that system is up, maybe the latest event that we are publishing is 2000. So now they have to get that net 1000, from 1000 to 2000. All they have to do is basically give me all the events that happened from 1000. Then immediately they get all those 1000 events that happened during this system downtime, and they can process it using the logic that they whatever they have to put in. And that time using this technology, so basically it doesn't matter whether a system is down or not, and everything is writing to one common place. And that way basically there is no downtime effects for any system. When it is up, it will take it back, and that's how it works. And I think just a high level, some in Salesforce, there are two important concepts for developer: custom settings and custom metadata type. Custom, let's say this trigger, we wrote some triggers. We want this trigger not to fire in production scenario for some user. And at that time, we wrote a couple of triggers. So this trigger in production, we cannot just go active, deactivate a trigger. So if we go back to Salesforce, this is the developer edition. That's why we will be able to deactivate triggers. But if you go to this trigger, this is active status, and on this metadata type, that meta XML file, if you go back and if you can say, okay, hey, I want to deactivate this trigger. If you say that, the trigger won't be fired from that moment onwards. But in any production system, you won't have these kind of flexibilities. You cannot go and look for trigger in the Apex trigger and try to deactivate. It doesn't work that way. And deploy, unless you deploy, you can't do that. Let's say there may be scenarios you are doing a data load as an admin, and for you the code shouldn't be triggered, but for others the trigger should be firing. All that stuff. I'm just giving one use case where you can use this kind of thing. And there for that potentially, here we put some settings, some checks. Here we can write, okay, if system or user dot get info dot name equals to some admin name, and just return. We can write it, but the problem is whether that user, maybe once that user is gone, now we have to update this code to point to somebody else. So this is a very painful thing. And if you want to if you don't want this code fire for that particular user, and either one option is to deactivate. For that you need deployment, you need permissions, all that stuff. Or if you hard code it for one user, potentially that is becoming, once that user is gone, so now you have to basically put again another code to do that. So for that, Salesforce, one of the use case I'm telling. So basically they have these custom settings. And so these custom settings are kind of very powerful ones when we create these guys. So let's say skip execution or something, if you say something like that. And,
you have to give the trigger name.
That one is a hierarchy thing. In Salesforce earlier they used to give list one. Now they kind of stop that one. But if you still want that, you have to make some changes in the setup that will enable this one. Then you can select list. But okay. You use the hierarchy setting. And once you use this guy, and potentially now you can say you can maintain here. So this is a one time you can deploy it, and from there you can put some settings. Let's say today I don't want this to be triggered for my user. Potentially I can simply say user, and I will say I think my name. I don't think I put my name on this thing. Something syntax. Okay, yeah, my name is still there. Okay. Okay. So now what we are saying, okay, we can write some code. Okay, read this custom setting. If there is this user, don't execute this thing. So that way you can write simple if condition not to execute for if the user is maintaining this thing. And now let's say I am done with my maybe data load or something. All I have to do is I have to come back to this custom setting and remove my name from the.
Yeah,
So,
got it.
I mean, there is another powerful thing. So let's say for some profile, you want to execute this thing, and for some other profile, you don't want. So at that time also, you can use this profile setting. And maybe if you say, okay, hey, for system admin, I want this code to be skipped. And now you are only referring to this guy. So now if I go back, so let's say I remove my name, and if I put my code in such a way that, okay, hey, if skip execution have this user or maybe some condition, even though I'm not there in this thing, I can remove my thing, but still works for me because I have my profile is system admin profile. So based on that, I mean, that's the hierarchy setting that they are
Yeah,
saying. Uh,
yeah.
Also, there is a org level. So if nothing is there on the top level, so there
Yeah.
is org level one, and potentially you can set on the org level also. That way, I mean, you can control whether per user or per profile or org level. So that's how you set that one, and it will work for everybody. So and you can write, all you have to do is, you don't want to even write it to by the setup owner or user. You simply refer this custom setting condition, and so that way you can avoid code execution. And there may be a lot more scenarios, maybe in trigger. So if you want somebody only to create accounts, I mean, so maybe prospects, you can allow everybody to create, but accounts only credit reps, or maybe, I mean, somebody has to do some credit checks, then only they want to create account. At that time, potentially we check some conditions here, and in Apex we can add system dot error, I believe. And that one, what it does, if let's say if we check some condition, if that custom setting is not there for that user whoever is running, and then if we run if we fire that code system dot error or system dot add error, so that one will show a message to the user saying, okay, hey, you don't have access, and
Okay.
you cannot execute this kind of thing. So that's how we can prevent users not to execute some code and show some reasonable messages to the user.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, there will be a lot of use cases, but basically, bottom line is, I mean, is the framework. You can leverage it, whatever the need that you have. So dealing with that one, I think I covered pretty much all I wanted to cover. And again, so this is the class, and one thing here, this is the other guy. And I don't know whether you noticed, I mean, the way I went through this course, all I did was picking one.
Yeah, yeah. I saw your first somebody's profile, right?
No, that one is a trial mix, but I kind of deviated from that one little later. There is something called super badges and credentials when you navigate,
Okay.
and when you go to developers here, and there is this Apex specialist.
Okay.
And this is the one I went through. Basically, I went through the triggers, and
Yeah.
then we went
Testing.
through Apex testing, and then we went through synchronous Apex, and then we went through the Apex integration services, and then finally Salesforce itself, they gave very nice project, if you can call that. And here they give you a very decent use case, and so potentially there is this data model. You may have to create the data model, and then they ask you to write some triggers, and they ask you to write some unit tests.
Unit test.
So all that stuff. I mean, I mean, whatever we cover, potentially it sums up everything. And I mean, just go through these things. I mean, once you complete this super badge, I'm pretty sure you will feel a lot more comfortable to take maybe either any interviews or anything.
Okay.
Definitely it may takes maybe about the entire thing. If you haven't started, maybe 20 hours. With that 20 hours, I'm pretty sure you will be a lot more comfortable to take on anything.
Okay. Yeah, this is helpful, Shrikant.
So yeah, with that,
That's
I think
specialist.
we are done. So I will update this documentation into the README and I will send that commit and also this call out class. And I will share the link. And pretty much all these links are available.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be there.
Okay.
It's okay. So I think that's we can wrap it.
All
And
right, Shrikant.
uh, yeah, if you need any help, if you work on projects or something, you can ping me. So I will see.
Actually, that's a good point that you have mentioned in the last for Apex specialist. Maybe I'll start in the trailhead. Yeah.
Yeah, mention this one also in the README in the project basically here.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay.
Sure, Shrikant. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. And good luck.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.